Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, almost. Technically here, it is 11:57, almost afternoon. And we are going to have the honor of bringing on a LA-based, really incredible, just such a resource, a rock star, really, social media coach. Hi, Tanaka. So we're really excited to have her. We're going to just wait for her to join here and we will have her join on live. And today we're going to be talking about your social media content, what you could be doing now to maybe adjust that content, what to post, what to be talking about, and then what kinds of questions to really ask yourself to take you through that content, and how to know if you're having an impact on those that you're sharing it with, right? On your audience. And just a little bit more about how you can have the most impact. So it's going to be a really great topic today. I'm really excited. We're going to give Dana from Positive Equation just a few more moments to join us, and we will have her pop in live. But in the meantime, how are you, Tanaka? I think we'll have a few more people join us. I know we've had quite a few people looking forward to this topic. I posted yesterday about it, just kind of looking forward to being able to talk about it. It's something that I personally love as our creative director. I sort of thrive on social media and marketing, and I've had so many responses. So I'm so excited that you guys are excited too. But just before we get started and before Dana pops in, just so you guys have, I guess, an understanding of how this all works, because this is actually our first Instagram live. We normally go live on Facebook, but I just love Instagram. I'm really excited about the features that are on here. Hey everybody, welcome. Okay, so if you want to submit any sort of questions, there's a question opportunity down at the bottom for those that aren't familiar with this. You can send us messages, comment below if you have any kind of questions or want to ask anything here. Okay, all right, we have Dana here. I'm going to add her. We'll get started.
Hi.
Hey! Oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi.
I'm in my
Oh yeah,
runner
really.
here.
It's a true good morning. I honestly forgot when we planned this that you were in LA.
All good. I wake up much earlier, so all good.
That's awesome. Well, I am so happy to have you, and honestly to have a little bit of like the West Coast vibe today, because I mean we don't really get a lot of that over here, so it's really awesome to have
Yes.
you.
It's
So,
actually just gotten really hot. It's supposed to reach 90 degrees today.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, which is
Oh,
cway.
well then welcome to sunny South Florida, because that's where we're based, and it's like always 90 degrees.
Yes. Oh, I'm from Sarasota.
Oh, no way. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're on the East Coast and a bit south, but I've been to Sarasota a ton of times. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful
Yes.
over there. That's awesome.
So
So how did
good.
you end up in LA? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, yeah, of course. So I grew up in Sarasota, Florida,
Okay.
and went to UCF. Go Knights.
Nice. Awesome.
And
Oh,
then,
Florida girl, I love it.
yeah, man. And then I really wanted to move to New York. That was like my goal.
Totally
So
get
I, I decided I worked for a nonprofit for 2 years in
it.
Sarasota,
Oh,
and
cool. Which one?
then Take Stock in Children.
Oh, wonderful. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So for those of you that don't know, so Take Stock is in all 67 counties of the state. It's a scholarship and mentoring program, and they're incredible. Um, and then after 2 years of working for them, I did the big city move and lived in Manhattan for about 4.5 years,
Love it.
working with big brands and agencies and on digital campaigns and sports leagues. And it was amazing. It was everything that you imagine about your young 20s living in the city.
You have to do it.
You have to do it. It was really great because honestly, there's not a lot of cities where you get the opportunity to work with that level of brands, and companies, and just like the experiences you have, you don't get. I wouldn't have gotten that experience staying in Sarasota.
Yeah.
So then I just like really realized like the nonprofit side of me was, I think, always there. where I just kept asking myself, why I don't want to sell these things anymore. Like I want to be helping companies that have a better story or purpose. And this was all before, this is before like the whole conscious consumer movement happened. I read a book. Actually, it's right here. This book is so good. Whoops, I'm gonna like knock over everything.
Oh, yes. Okay, so wait, while you're grabbing it, for those of you who have not visited her website, I saw you talk about this book. And
Yes.
I like want to buy it now because you were talking about it.
It's so good. It literally, I read and I got it. So this was so funny. I had written in my journal that I wanted to start my own company in September. It was the fall of 2016. Okay. And then my boss was like, hey, there's this event. There's guys speaking. And it was the author of Good is the New Cool. And that's where like I ended up buying the book because he signed it.
Oh,
and
so cool.
I was like, oh yeah, I love this guy. And during the panel discussion, I swear like my body was like on fire because I just knew it was like, oh, I gotta like do my own thing. And like I just felt it. And I was like, does she feel it? Does she know? And she was the best. She was so supportive. And then in April, so literally like 6 months after I wrote that journal entry, I quit my job and started my own company and moved to Los Angeles for no other like,
oh my gosh,
no other real reason that I was single. I had never lived on the West Coast. I had traveled here a lot. I was doing some entertainment work, freelancing. Yeah. So I just knew some people. So it was kind of like, I know a good amount of people here, like personally and professionally. So
that's great.
Why not?
Why not? Exactly. It's a great place to start a business too. My gosh. And to have your own brand. And by the way, your brand is incredible. Like, I love what you do. And I know that our community and just, you know, in working with nonprofits, that you have that focus is so awesome and so unique.
Thank you.
Like, wow, what a transition too, because I don't know about the agencies you work with, but even in the nonprofit world, you've worked with some big names, like Movember, Dress for Success. Those are some, you know, amazing organizations.
It was all, and I'm sure like you know this too, it's all relational.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Absolutely. I've done like zero like marketing. It's just through like somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And then Movember was really funny. There's a friend, do you know Omaze?
Yes. Heard of it.
They're known for like, they do the videos with the celebrities that give an experience that gives back.
The video.
Yes. Yes. So they do lots, like Robert Downey Jr. did one where you get to like spend a day with him in the Avengers and donations go towards X cause kind of thing. So I had a friend of mine who was working there and she had seen like a job posting on LinkedIn for Movember. She's like, hey, let me just pass this to you. And it was for digital social. And I was like, I'm not doing like full-time roles anywhere, but I'll send them a note. And that was what it was. And then 3 years ago, so every year I've actually worked with them. And last year I helped run their entire North America digital strategy, which was awesome and bananas.
I'm sure,
but really fun
for sure. Oh wow, that's and you know it's so nice because you have this perspective of working in the for-profit world and working with some of these big names and nonprofits. But I love what you say on your website about knowing what it's like to have a team of one and zero budget, because I mean that's like reality. Everyone starts somewhere, right? Yeah. And we at the Canico agency work a lot with startups, and so they might eventually grow into an amazing and enormous organization and mission. But I think for the most part, most people start with a team of one or a budget of nothing and kind of work from there. So, I mean, incredible that you can see both sides.
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting, especially in the time we're in now. And I'm sure you guys see this too, where I'm always pushing for organizations, whether you're just starting as a nonprofit, like make sure digital and social has a line in your budget. Right. Oftentimes it doesn't, because social integrates with every aspect, development, marketing, HR, like every single part of your organization.
Right.
And I was just talking the other day, I did a webinar with Vic Harrison, the
Oh,
co-founder of Charity Water.
wow.
And they also like started with nothing, but they understood the importance of really great content. And if you remember, like a few years ago, Scott, her husband, the founder, created this like 20-minute video, and people thought about their story. People thought they were crazy. They're like, a 20-minute video? What is that going to do? Isn't everything supposed to be 30 seconds? And like to this day, because of the investment into that video, and they're really interesting in their model, right? They have
Right.
private donors that pay specifically for their operational expenses so that other donations go 100% towards their cause. So it's also something to consider when you're a startup is, I think you have to, and we're seeing this now, you have to invest and put some money in digital. I led another webinar with just executive directors, and one of my questions before they jumped on was, what kind of budget do you work with for social? And out of like 50 of them, I think there was like 4 that were like, we have a couple $100 for ads. And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but part of it is like, educate your board of directors, educate your senior leadership. Like now, I think everything that's happening with COVID was going to happen, right? Like digital is not going away. So this happened now in a time where people weren't necessarily prepared, but now how can you make sure you are prepared for like the new age of donors coming in? Yeah.
Yeah. And and that's why I requested to do this with you, because I mean, yes, this was always important, but you're so right. I mean, whether or not you prepared for this, digital isn't going away. And now more than ever, it's important that if you weren't prepared, maybe now you'll think of how you can be prepared and work towards this future of sort of virtual everything, I mean, what you do for brands is going to be the future. And I mean, so much a part of what everyone is kind of looking to right now. So, I mean, it's really, really incredible. So tell us a little bit more about Positive Equation and what you do for brands in that space, and why it is so important, obviously now, and even before and after all this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I guess that was a miss on your first question.
No, not at all. I love this. The casual stuff, it works.
we're just vibing. We're just vibing. This is also, I'm in workout gear because I'm training for, sounds funny, I'm training for a 5K, but it's for December.
Nice. I love that. I would have to train for a 5K too.
Yeah, I was like, I can do 2 miles pretty good, but like 3.1 is a little bit of an extra.
No, it's hard. Yeah, and no walking. I'd be with you on the training.
Yeah, so that's why I'm in my gear.
I love it. We're getting to know each other. It's great.
I love it. So Positive Equation. So I work with nonprofits on really trying to innovate their digital strategies. So I always ask, and this is kind of why I think there's a struggle of investment in it. I always ask leaders, what are your business goals? And oftentimes what does not align or is not even thought of is, okay, then what are the digital strategies that literally marry those and will help you accomplish them? So I'm a sucker for binging like positive stories all over Facebook and Instagram. And I just love seeing that.
I love
it. Those stories, like for example, at, it's 7:00 our time. Whenever they do the cheering in New York outside.
Yes.
You've seen that? So it's like that video, the workout video in Spain where the guy's on his roof, like doing the exercise and everybody's watching. Like, even like during, it was before all of this. I think it was around the holidays where somebody had put out, it was like a Nest video? Nest video?
Oh,
outside.
The front door thing?
Yeah. Remember something you had to put a sign? Did you see that was like the USPS worker? Like, thank you so much. Here's some snacks. I know you're really busy during the holidays.
Yeah.
Those are all amazing videos that A, like innately make you feel good. And then B, they make you smile. And then don't you also just want to do something good after that? So
of course,
I'm all about like, how can I help work with them to make sure those stories are told the best way possible on social media, because then those lead to inspiring more change.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the genesis of it. So I usually work with nonprofits in doing audits on their social channels and understanding those goals. And then out of that audit comes a full workshop session with their team on, okay, this is what's happening. Now, what do we do with all this information?
Right.
And then the other way is through just like online resources and tools. And then very specifically, kind of like with Movember, is one-off consulting on projects.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah. And I really love the way that you talk about the brand, and I obviously I stalked your website just a little bit.
It's going through a redo also.
No, it's really good, and we're going to talk a little bit later about all the amazing resources that are on there. I mean, aside from the work you do directly with the people that you're helping, I love that you're giving them, both free and not free, these actionable steps. You know, it's not like, oh, here's some quick tips. It's something that people can do right now. And especially now, and, you know, as we look to the future, I've been talking constantly and on here and on our Facebook about, you know, what can you do right now, but not for the future. You know, kind of always looking to that. So yeah. I love that. I love
Thanks.
That. So kind of diving in, you know, today we really wanted to focus in on content and, you know, really figuring out, how do we know if what we're doing on social media is having an impact on our audience? So particularly right now, and as, again, we look to that future, what sorts of content should we be posting? I mean, I know it's specific to maybe the mission, but, you know, what helps to get people through this time? What brings people in?
Great question. So to your point about depending on the mission, it really depends on who your audience is, right? What are they going through right now? How can you provide valuable content to them in going through this? For one example is I just did, I feel like I've just done a bunch of webinars to keep saying that, but I just did a webinar. It's a thing these days to do. With 45 nonprofits in Orange County, all around. This is the census year, and California had like a big miss in numbers 10 years ago. So they're trying to utilize the nonprofit community to find those hard to reach areas and groups. And so I went through some of their content, and it was all just kind of like, do you have 9 minutes, like fill out the census, it's going to change our future. And I was like, does that, everything that we're going through, and I was really, I'm blunt with them too. And I was like, would you answer that post? Would you take an action from that? And I did an example where one of the organizations was like single moms organization. So moms who are raising a child and by themselves. And I said something about in the caption of, to get their attention, how many times have you watched Frozen this week? Right? So it's like, you say that you get them. Like, I understand where you're at. You're a working mom. You're trying to get stuff done. So that video is probably on replay. And it's like, at the very beginning, you're like, oh, I got you. Yeah. I know where you're at. Yeah. Right? And then like weave that through. Another example of content is, that I gave them was, if they do have a family at home, right, and one of them was a museum, and can you do an arts and crafts activity? Can you bring somebody on to do a live that's going to allow that parent a moment, a break, and be like, hey, here's a video on digital and on social that's not just fluff, but you're going to learn something. Yeah. They're going to teach you how to make something. So I think there's a couple of things. It's value. How are you bringing value? How are you showing up being real and authentic? And a lot of this comes from leadership. So like asking yourself, has our leader put out a video? Have they explained, this is where we're at, this is what we're going through, this is what we need? And doing that kind of consistently. Yeah. I love a client of mine, Unseen. They work with partners all over the world to try and end human trafficking. And their CEO, Than, has been going live weekly talking about like stories of hope and bringing on guests and explaining to people like, this is what's going on. How are you feeling? Coin Up just did one yesterday, if you know them. So they're an app that essentially is like Acorns, which is investing, but Coin Up allows you to round up your donations, your change for donations. And they did a Facebook Live with two nonprofits that focus on homelessness. And so they were asking, one was in LA and one was in San Diego. And it was just that. It was an interview, and it was like, what's going on? What's the pulse of what's happening? How have you guys pivoted? And where can people here listening help you? And people really resonated with that. So I think it's kind of like being realistic about, and this goes back to know your audience, looking at the insights on your channels. If your audience is 18 to 24, your messaging and your content should be a lot different than if it's like 45 to 65, right? So acknowledging that you understand where they're at and really just thinking about how you can serve them.
No, I love that. And you mentioned looking at those insights. How often should people be doing that? I know in working with some of our nonprofits, a lot of them don't check, they post kind of sporadically. But how often, I guess, should we be posting? And how often do you really check to look at that data?
I would say to look weekly, dependent upon how fast you grow. So if you're growing, then obviously your data is going to change, and you want to make sure you look at that. If you're not growing a ton weekly, then I would say monthly. Because then you can look at what are our top posts. That was interesting with December in our audit. We looked at over the course of a campaign their top posts, and as a female organization, 2 of their top posts had men. And so it was like, whoa. They're like, okay, should we be working with, which kind of makes sense if you really think about it, where if it's a demo of women that are looking at these guys. So it's like, okay, should we have some male influencers supporting our cause? I don't know. It was an interesting thought. So I would say weekly, monthly, dependent upon how big you are. And then how many times you should post. So there's this big misnomer that I need to post every day or multiple times a day. It's really, you need to be consistent in posting. So if for you, we can do 3 solid posts. Awesome. Just do 3. And make sure it's every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever it is. That's what the algorithm looks for, is consistency. And more than just posting is you have to engage. Like so many people just post, poof, it's out there. Now I'm going to be viral, right? No. Like you have to go in and respond to people, like go into DMs. There's so many beautiful ways to engage with people through audio. I remember I had posted about somebody that I follow that's like an influencer, and she has like 350,000 followers. And she sent me back an audio DM that was like, hey, Dana. I remember I was like, oh, she's got a fan hooked for life.
That's good.
Because she just said my name.
Good.
So you know that there's somebody there, right? And it's her voice. So I would say make sure you engage. Like if you haven't, one tip that I think people just like miss is on Instagram especially, you can click who your followers are, go down the line, do a check-in. Thank you so much for being a supporter. How are you? Just want to give you a quick update. Like that's an easy tip. And then people are like, wow.
Yeah.
Like there's a human there.
I love that. And so how do you then, so you send those messages, is there like a next step that you can take from that? How do you get people to that next place? Okay, so we've checked in. Thank you so much for joining us here. I love what you said about hearing from leaders. I know I've noticed with our social media and our insights that when our CEO comes on and does like a little video, I mean, those get the most views by far. mostly because she's amazing and engaging, but also because I think people do like to hear, like, what's going
Yeah.
on? Give us an update. What can we look forward to?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
amazing. But what do we do to get them to that next stage of, maybe taking some action, joining a newsletter, or being a volunteer even, or,
Yeah.
obviously I think becoming a donor is probably like the top step. But
Yes.
what
Yes.
next?
So there's always like, if you consider it into like a funnel, right? It's
Okay,
the same thing. Nonprofits are businesses,
of course.
right?
Yeah.
They're technically, I think this is still true. The nonprofit sector is the third largest for jobs in the United States.
Wow, I didn't know
So
that. Wow.
nonprofits are a business. So I think about it the same way as if I was going to purchase something. How many times do you need to see this pen advertised before you buy it? Right? How many times do
Absolutely.
you need to hear from this nonprofit before you're like, ooh, yeah, I really love that mission?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think about it as having different buckets of content.
I
And
love.
I always talk about this theme, especially right now,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
a single issue message. So hone
Yeah.
in on one program or one area that you need help that has a finite number at the end. So
Mm.
if there's a way that you can bucket it, IJM, I keep talking about human trafficking nonprofits this morning. I don't know why, but IJM,
They're good examples, I guess. That's great.
for examples, they have a program that's called Freedom Partners.
Okay.
And for $24 a month, if 24 people give $24, that equals a rescue mission.
Oh,
I
wow.
can see that, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
for
It's measurable.
content, measurable, yeah, for
Yeah.
content,
Yeah.
it's first piece, hey, I'm going to educate you on what we do, right? Second piece of content, here's the impact, showing what can be done. 3, here's our spending and how it breaks down.
Right.
You're still educating, right?
Yeah.
4, here's what a rescue mission looks like.
Wow.
Right, here's this video piece, here's the impact it can make. And then lastly, I'm going to ask. So it's like all this like trickle down. And what's helpful for that, if nonprofits have it, doesn't have to be a big budget, but
Right.
you can literally lead people through that in an ad. So if your first piece of content that's educating is a video,
Mm-hmm.
you can create an audience from that that's like, okay, I'm going to save the audience that watched 50% of this video because I know they were engaged. And now I have a smaller audience. Then I'm going to retarget them with that impact stat, right? And so then you basically break it down until you have, I don't know, say you start with 50,000 people. And if you can bring it down to, I don't know, call it 5,000 that are
Right.
actually really, really, really engaged. But if you can convert 5,000 people to give you $500,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's a good day.
Amazing. Of course.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So how do we find that? I didn't even know you could do that. So, I mean, I think a lot of us do ads. I know that our clients do ads. So once we create this ad and we've engaged with a certain amount of people, how do you then sort of narrow it down to that audience that is really engaged and loves your mission?
Yeah, when you go into Ads Manager on the back end,
Yeah.
I should do like a whole video on this. You can
I know,
create a custom audience
Okay.
based upon watching X video. And you can literally select individual videos.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then you
that's
can
incredible.
create like lookalike audiences based upon, you can also do it based upon who's engaged or looked at your Facebook or Instagram
Wow.
pages within a certain amount of time. So if you're
Okay.
running a campaign for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you can focus on, okay, anybody who's engaged with my content in those 2 weeks, we want to retarget in this next bucket of content.
Okay. Wow. I had no idea that you're teaching me a lot. So I know that you're teaching everyone else a lot. Thank you for that.
You're
Oh my
welcome.
gosh. Okay. So I know we're kind of running out of time. I feel like we've been on here not that long, but my gosh, does time fly when you're learning things. So I just have a few more questions. You talked about this bucket of content, right? Different buckets, having sort of something laid out really in a program or maybe a service that, some of our organizations might offer.
Yeah.
So how do you get started? Like, how do you decide what to post? I know videos are really strong, but how do you feel about stock images? For example, I feel like I'm going to get torn apart for saying it. But, how do you decide what to post and what to write?
So I think it all goes back to what's your goal?
Okay.
Like, what do you want this piece of content to do? What's the feeling that it should evoke? What should it drive people? Is there an action to it? And then stock images, I think can be fine, honestly. Like,
Okay.
but it's just using like Unsplash, right? Or Pexels, like
Yes.
some of the free sites, or Canva. I think
Yes.
some of the ones that come from Shutterstock are pretty rough. So going for more the lifestyle imagery ones, and I think now's an interesting time, obviously, because people aren't out creating content necessarily, so they're having to repurpose content.
Right.
Literally, but this is happening in all brands. I love, love, love. There's this video that Guinness did. Obviously, not a nonprofit, but so my birthday was on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, happy belated.
Thanks. Way belated now, but it's
yeah.
It was amazing because they took old not stock, but old footage they had, videos, photos, recompiled it to tell a very different story, basically relating to now that was saying, we signed a 9,000-year lease in Ireland, in Dublin. We're not going anywhere. It's like, we got you. We're going to be here for the next St. Patrick's Day, And then at the end, it's saying we're donating, which they ended up doubling. At the time of the video, they were donating $500,000 towards pubs and restaurants that needed support. And now they've done $1 million. And they might have done more since I've checked. But it was just a great piece of content. So it's taking old images you have and just kind of like, can you create something new with that? Telling your story. Yeah.
I love that. And we all have it. I know we do. I mean, my phone has like 15,000 pictures. I should be creating content.
I know.
Amazing. No, and such a good tip, because all of the things you're talking about right now are so doable and so accessible. And like I said, I know we all have access to those things. So that's amazing.
You just need to like slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down, look at like the bigger picture, really think about like the insights in your audience. What do we have? And do some like, I always love creative thinking brainstorms, like just going to the team and saying, what if? And never know, right? But the yes and conversations.
Yeah.
Because that's where
you unexpected.
Yeah. And you start big. Like, I love it. Big ideas, like outlandish ideas.
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, then how do we like focus it and make it doable? Yeah.
Absolutely. But what you're saying again, the fact that it's so doable, it's so accessible. I love it. And I love the creativity in it all, honestly. I mean, I call it the 5-minute rule. And I think in social media, it's so easy now, especially being at home, to get overwhelmed and to get carried away. But, to just sit down and do exactly what you're saying, write down some of these ideas, write down, a service or a program that maybe is new for you, given what's going on. I know a lot of our organizations have gone virtual and are doing a great job at it, honestly. But it's new. So, how do we think creatively about sharing that, using that old content? My gosh, that's genius. I love that. And maybe avoids the possibility of using stock images, because I do try to avoid them if I can. And I think you're right. There's so much opportunity in using the old and repurposing it. So that's great. How creative. I love that. Thanks. All right. The last question I had actually came from one of the organizations we work with. So I really want to make sure I ask it so that they can see it. But I think, for a lot of people, having a lot of likes or a lot of followers is like the scariest part of diving into social media and feeling like you're not having an impact, you're not making a difference, nobody's seeing it. I hear a lot from our clients, it's not worth it. I'm not going to spend my time on that because we only have X number of followers. So how do you know if you're making an impact? Is it really all about the likes and the followers, or is there some other way of knowing that people are seeing it, or, that, you will get there, people will start to follow and like what you're doing? I know a lot of what you said already really ties into this, but how do we know? How do
Yeah.
we know what's good?
No, it's such a common question. And
Yeah.
I always go back to, it's not how many followers you have, but it's who are they? Are they
Yes.
the right people? And if you think about social media in terms of, like, I don't have a ton of followers on my Instagram account. It's like 700, right? But if I had 700 people in a room, that would be an awesome conference.
Yeah, yeah,
So
what?
so think about, like, your number if they were in person in front of you, and think about the scale of that. And I think it always goes back to, if your content's not resonating, is the content right?
Mm.
Right? It's always back to, are you even asking? A lot of times, this is like in a ton of content I've looked at recently for nonprofits. Did you ask for a response in your caption? Or did you just write a sentence? Then if you don't ask, how is somebody supposed to know? Like, if I wrote, my favorite ice cream is strawberry, somebody would be like, that's cool. But you didn't ask about, what's yours? What's your favorite place you go to? What's the story of you growing up with your parents going to the ice cream store, right? You have to give them an opportunity
Right.
to respond to you.
Yeah.
Also, on Instagram stories are so key. Because if you think about Instagram like a website,
Right.
Instagram stories and even IG lives are essentially your headers. And then you get to the feed. On Facebook, it's become a very, very pay-to-play platform unless you're doing live content.
Okay.
So it's important to have an ad strategy. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but that just means you have to get really smart in your audience targeting. You can spend, I boosted a post yesterday for a client, it's $25, right? It's not a ton of money, but it's just getting like really honed in on who you're trying to reach with that message. And then it'll do its job if it's a good piece of content, and it'll be shared and moved along. So don't get bogged down in the followers. I've done like no paid on my Instagram, and I've grown by 200 followers in the past like 2 months. But that's because I'm actively engaging with people.
Wow. But that's a lot. That's great.
I'm going in, I'm responding, I'm going into like DMs actively, like without people messaging me. I look at the hashtags, right? And then I go into those people, and then I'm responding, and they're like, oh, hey, who is this person? Oh, her content's cool, right? It's always coming back to, is your content good for that person that you just reached out to? Will they want to come hang out with you? It's like, think about your, right? The channels are, especially now in the new generations, people want to be friends with brands. So is your nonprofit friendly, right? Or do you sound like just corporate, boring conversation, honestly?
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think, you're talking about different ways to engage. And I think we've been talking about this whole time. So if you did even one or two of those things a week, I keep going back to the time frame in my mind. It might be slower to build, but you're constantly building that brand that people want to work with, people want to engage with. And it sounds like everything that you're talking about is a conscious step, so it's like, today I'm going to, and you fill in the blank with one of those things. So
it's putting in your calendar, like, okay, I'm going to do some community management for 10 minutes.
I love that. Like, very set time. Awesome.
Yeah. Set the timer, do it. Great. It's done. Like, move on. But you have to do it.
That's great. But 10 minutes, my gosh, everybody has 10 minutes.
Yeah.
8 o'clock at night after dinner, a 10-minute check-in communication. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. So I want to be respectful of your time. I want you to get back to that 5K training. Okay, there's so many things on your website. Honestly, I wanted all of them, but I did see that there was a 5-day sort of content toolkit. So tell us a little bit about that. How can we access it? And how do we get in touch with you? How can people reach out and work with you even on some of what you're doing for these brands?
I love that you stalked my website.
I fully did. I don't think you really know, like, every page.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, let me know. I'm changing a bunch of things. So we'll have to talk through that. So the content toolkit really, I did a challenge, oh my gosh, in January with it. And everyone really liked it with a group of 30 people. So I turned it into this toolkit because I wanted it to be, it's free. Okay. So if you go to my website, which is positiveequation.com, right at the top, you just have to enter your name and your email and you can download it. And it's pretty in-depth and it really takes you from what we talked about with goal setting. And I call them Be Smart goals. So SMART goals are very common for people that you go through, but I added B, which is your business objective. Oh, that's a new twist, which is what usually your boss wants to know. So it's like all the way from your Be Smart goal all the way to execution of content. So it breaks down content ideas. It breaks down literally how to write a good caption. It breaks down what your different content buckets should be. So it's a really good exercise to go through. Print it out. There's a bunch of areas to make notes. So it's meant to be scribbled all over. And then you can reach me really with Positive Equation on Instagram or my website, or my email is just my name, Dana@positiveequation.com.
Awesome. I cannot tell you how helpful this was every second. And we are going to save it, everybody. I will make sure that we post it as well on our nonprofit community forum on Facebook. If you're not a part of it, please do join. It's a great resource, and I will make sure I post this there because this was so incredibly helpful. But make sure to reach out to Dana, positiveequation.com. It is an incredible website. I can't even tell you. I love it. I can't imagine what you're going to change unless you're adding to it. But it really helped me, and I know it will help all of you as well. So thank you so much for your time, for your expertise.
So nice to meet you.
You too. We will do this again, I'm sure. Let's definitely stay in touch and find more ways to teach about this online world. I know that now, especially, we want to be reaching people online while everyone's home and really wanting to connect, but it's going to continue. So let's stay connected and learn more about it.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I will see you soon. And
Sounds
thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks. Bye. Bye, everybody.